Welcome to the Intrazone Roadmap Pitstop June 2019 edition. This is a bonus monthly show that answers that burning question in your mind. What's rolling out now for SharePoint and related Microsoft 365 technologies? I bet you ask yourself that question every single day. Well, these roadmap episodes are the answer every single month. This month, I talk with Kaleem Rahman, product manager on the Yammer engineering team, who focuses on all things Q&A in Yammer alongside delivering ongoing innovations for knowledge creation and consumption. Consider this the message center for everyone, not just cloud admins. We'll keep everyone informed, current, and ahead of the ever-curving Microsoft 365 roadmap. We've got a ton of items to cover. The engines are hot, pedal to the metal, and here we go. First up, we're going to focus on all things employee engagement. We've got a couple of nice items that launched and started releasing in June 2019. First up, organization assets. Digital assets that can help you tell a more dynamic story, and the nice thing is they are approved at the highest level of your organization, are now available to all because they can put them in the right place that's accessible when you're building your pages, your news. Organization assets lets you register one or more document libraries via PowerShell as a special source for images such as photos and logos across all sites. So now build your assets with your assets. And imagine that those are ones that are approved by your organization and available to you right where you need them. Next up is a new capability within the Stream mobile app, and it gives you that ability to really share from wherever you are. Now you can upload existing photos from your camera roll or other online services like OneDrive right from your mobile device. And in addition to that, you can actually record videos right in the moment from the mobile app in a secure and compliant way with a built-in video capture feature now available or rolling out now in June to the Stream mobile app. Great way to keep everybody in tune with what's going on, and certainly we know video tells more than 1,000 words per picture. Last thing before we talk with Kaleem, and it really is his feature that we want to dig into, it's the Yammer Q&A feature. This gives you the ability to categorize a conversation as a question, make knowledge more discoverable with this new type of post called Question and Answer. Denoted by unique styling, questions help people identify general discussions for those that require a response. Once the question is posted, the author or group admin can now mark the best response of that answer. So imagine asking a question, getting a ton of answers, and actually having it for the next person validated which is the best answer. This is a great new feature for a way that Yammer not only supports this great employee engagement, a two-way discussion, but to have it be more authoritative so that you know when you come across information, you know which one is the right answer. So let's take a pause and actually talk with Kaleem Rahman about this feature and other things that he and the Yammer team are working on. All right, so it is time to get off of the roadmap pit stop, or should I say pull into the pit stop, so that we can actually chat and learn more about the question and answer feature. We're joined today on the roadmap with Kaleem Rahman, who is a product manager on the Yammer engineering team.
Hey, yeah, for sure, Mark. Thanks for having me here. Super stoked to be here. I am a product manager on Yammer. I've been here for the last 3.5 years, although I've been at Microsoft for the last maybe 6.5. While I started off here at Yammer, focused on first helping out the needs of IT professionals and compliance managers, and then community managers. Over the last year or so, I've been focused on heading up our efforts around what we're calling knowledge experiences to better help organizations create and consume knowledge in Yammer.
From your perspective, and not just the Yammer perspective, but your perspective in working in this area, what's our general approach when we want to make this offering to the broader modern or intelligent internet that people get when they get Microsoft 365? What does that look like in how you plan, deliver, and of course, listen to feedback from customers?
That certainly has changed. Initially, when Yammer was just starting out in the Office 365 suite, the product sort of saw itself as a destination. People would go there, they participate in these communities, they find other folks to connect with and so on. And we mainly saw ourselves as this destination, right? But as we've matured, as we've had a lot more conversations with organizations that use Office 365, seen some of the potential benefits we could bring, our approach on that matter has changed so that we're not looking at ourselves as a destination alone. We're also trying to figure out, how can we take some of the awesome social capabilities that Yammer offers and bring that to other parts of the suite where people are already using it, people already have workflows built off of it. And some of those examples of services where we want to, have those close integrations and make some awesome experiences are things like SharePoint and Teams and so on. You may remember we had the highlights web part, which used to show up, a few highlights from specific Yammer groups that could be embedded in SharePoint sites. More recently, we had the SharePoint web part, which, lets you see all of the conversations from a specific group, let's say from Yammer, be able to interact with it, be able to reply, be able to start conversations, all within the context of a SharePoint site. So you don't have to leave the place to go to Yammer to be able to do that. That's kind of how we've been seeing it. We want to take the capabilities that awesome products like SharePoint provide. We want to take capabilities that we have that are unique to us and bring them together in a way that makes sense for organizations.
You've noted in your research of what you're really doing for customers is to better aid the knowledge creation and consumption that spans throughout the organization. When you look at it from a research perspective in trying to accomplish that broader, how do we learn things from each other and how do we share more easily? What are some of the things that you've learned so far in that research?
Yeah, this is it's been quite inspiring actually for us over the last year. So there's, I think, two things I want to call out here. We learned about the importance of the creation of knowledge across the org and the consumption of it, how important that is. We observed how prevalent that was in really large organizations that are spread across a few different locations. And, we learned about the different contexts in which it takes place on Yammer today. So maybe a year or a year and a half back, you may remember from Ignite, we talked about how we want to make Yammer a better product for communities. We learned about this kind of community called the community of practice. People get together to, because they're interested in a specific domain or a skill, collectively creating knowledge that can be used more broadly in the organization. The second thing, though, was we observed that those needs around knowledge, they weren't isolated alone to these communities of practices. They also existed in some form in, groups where leaders get together to engage with the broader organization. And so we saw that a lot of these leadership type groups also had a lot of this need for knowledge, people asking questions, people seeking information. So when we saw a lot of these, use cases around this space, we got really excited because today there's a bunch of things that could be done that would help make this experience much better for these organizations. And so that's one of the areas that we decided to go into and say, how can we better help support this creation of knowledge, the consumption of knowledge, the surfacing of it, all of it that gets created through conversation in these Yammer groups.
What is it specifically? What is actually starting to roll out soon to our customers to make a lot of what it is that you've done research on actually formidable in terms of a capability now that they can take advantage of? What is Yammer Q&A?
So the Yammer question and answer feature is really intended to be a start in helping address some of these challenges in this space. It simply starts off by, first of all, providing a new kind of post type in Yammer for questions. But we've introduced this new type where you can ask a question and it's got its own unique visual look, which helps you scan it more quickly as you're going through a group and so on. And more importantly, it affords us some of the flexibility to create an experience around question asking and answering. So one example of that is the best answer feature that comes along with it. You may ask a question and there might be a few different responses. The person who asked the question or the admins of the group, they can mark one of the responses as a, in quotes, best answer. And what that does is it highlights that response. So it puts it right at the top of the question. From that point onwards, anybody who's in that group or happens to come across this conversation can see, here was the question and here's what got marked as the best answer. So they can quickly find that information. So that at its core is, the question and answer feature in a nutshell. But there's a couple of other things we're building around that. We would have that functionality in Yammer groups that you can use, but we also are bringing that to the Yammer live events. Let's say you have one with the leader in an organization. The attendees can either choose to ask a question or make a comment. And if they choose to ask a question, it appears, visually, uniquely in its own way. And the cool thing is we're also providing a way for the event organizers to be able to easily see in a single view what are all the questions that got asked leading up to this event, during or after, and more importantly, be able to see which ones of them haven't been answered yet. So if they want to be able to track it and follow up after, they can do that as well. So that in a nutshell is, what it's really bringing. It's bringing this new post type, which gives us the flexibility to create some really unique experiences around question asking and answering.
Yeah, and that's the part, just in listening to you describe it, I think there's the nuts and bolts of I have a question and I want to get the best answer. And then for those that had a similar question or just reviewing it kind of from a frequently asked questions and learning, they'll be able to see what is the right answer and have that sort of authoritative validation. But it's also, like you're building a community-based knowledge management system that operates at multiple different levels. One of, I think, the biggest benefits is you're building a Q&A component that can plug into your various scenarios. For a team, it might work specifically on certain benefits. To a broader live events type scenario, of course, has a more of a real-time authoritative feel to it. But the notion of when you have a Yammer Q&A powered experience expected to be the same experience and same value. And I think that's a great way that you're approaching it. And certainly to learn from those various experiences will mean that the Q&A capabilities, as they get released and iterate over time, will learn from a lot of different ways that people use it. It will also improve over time in that same fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say you have a group that's set up to take questions for the HR department. You can use this and you can mark those answers. If you have a group where leaders are expected to answer questions, you have that. So over time, what we hope is it's going to create these units of knowledge, right, that can later be taken advantage of in various ways, like through the FAQ that you mentioned, by plugging it into other products, consume that in different ways by organizations.
Kaleem, I am going to do first one thing. I'm going to mark all of your answers as the best answers to all of my Yammer questions and ask sort of two last quick questions. What beyond Q&A, of things that you can share, what's to come next in this area?
Yeah, great question. So the first thing is that we're working on bringing over this the filter concept to be able to see questions by themselves or simply the questions that have not been answered yet to Yammer groups. We're going to continue to refine the look and feel of these questions and answers. And finally, from some of the feedback that we received so far from the preview, a bit of it we've worked on already. All of it is around getting this core experience, if you will, really solid, getting it to work really well for organizations that care about it before we take on some of the, next bigger parts of this knowledge puzzle, of which there are many. Looking very much forward to it.
Well, thank you for sharing this first piece of the puzzle and obviously sharing some knowledge with us directly about Yammer Q&A and beyond. Where would you best point people to find out more about you and what Yammer's doing?
Yeah. So we have a few different avenues. On the Microsoft Tech community, we've got a blog and an associated Yammer community. There you'll find, the latest announcements of our features. You'll find a rich community of, community managers, IT professionals, and people from internal communications departments. So that's a really cool place to check out. We've got our Yammer Twitter handle. We've got this Yammer Resource Center. So this has got a whole bunch of guides, playbooks, etc., having best practices on how one might use some of these capabilities. And finally, I think like the Microsoft Ignite conference that's happening in November is a great place to meet with people from our team directly and see some of these things in action and some of the updates that will, be coming in the upcoming months as well. And me personally, I'm also on Twitter. And so my handle is, dislocated with a K. So you can find me there as well.
I will put all those links into the show notes and have it in the blog as well. And want to say to Kaleem Rahman, product manager from the Yammer engineering team, thank you for taking time out today to join us on the Pitstop and have a wonderful rest of your day there in San Francisco.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here, Mark.
So it's back to the pit stop and on to what we're doing more with Yammer. That was great catching up with Kaleem Rahman, who is a product manager on the Yammer engineering team. With that, back to the pit stop. Okay, we're back from talking with Kaleem. It's time to get on with the pit stop. And since we were talking with Kaleem, let's round out a couple of the additional new Yammer features. One nice thing that's very directly related to SharePoint is that now your Yammer files in Office 365 group-connected sites are stored in SharePoint. So have a conversation, add a document, and know that it's being put into the right location. SharePoint as your content service, now supporting Yammer. Two additional things that are pretty quick and easy for Yammer as well. There's a new rich text editor that makes your comms easier to both compose and, of course, nicer to digest for the reader. And we're starting to roll out the EU Data Residency so that even Yammer discussions and all the content in Yammer, of course, with SharePoint now supporting the storage functionality, you know that all your content and conversations reside within that region for the EU. Last item in this broader employee engagement, SharePoint hub sites, the limit has been raised to 2,000. So as announced at the SharePoint Conference 2019, the number of SharePoint hubs that you can create per tenant will go up from 100 to 2,000. That's 2 with 3 zeros. That's a lot more hub sites to create to give yourselves landing spots to gather and bring together both people and content within regions, within different projects, a better way to organize your modern intranet. That's it for employee engagement. Time to move on to a teamwork. Here we are at teamwork, and it's time to learn how you and your teams can work better together. First up, when you're looking at document files that are in either OneDrive or SharePoint in a document library, you can come across them in a Teams Files tab. When you hover over the name of the document, you'll see our file cards. And specifically, when you see the name of the file card, you'll see a lot of rich information. What's new is now you will see a time to read estimate. So if it's a really long white paper or Word document of certain length, you'll actually get a sense of about how long it will take to read it. And you'll see at a glance what are some of the key sentences from within the Word document. And you can do all of this before truly committing to open up the document. The file cards are a really nice experience. You'll see them light up wherever you've got this new files experience that we're rolling out throughout Microsoft 365. And the on-hover file cards give you a lot of rich data so you can learn about what's going on with the file, what's in the file, all again without having to commit to opening it. Next up, you can configure OneDrive to automatically sync SharePoint Team Site shared libraries. This is called the OneDrive Team Site Auto Mount, and it's rolling out now. This feature gives administrators the ability to automatically connect and synchronize specific SharePoint Team Site document libraries, and to do this as part of a OneDrive deployment. To help configure a team site to sync automatically, we've provided a new group policy. This is called the Configure Team Sites Library to Sync Automatically. Of course, always go with a descriptive title for admins to deploy. To be clear, these are the document libraries within group-connected team sites that appear under the Shared Libraries list within a person's OneDrive user interface. One of my favorite things that's not only coming to OneDrive, but has actually started to roll out to the rest of the Microsoft 365 suite, but specifically here in June, we've started to roll out Microsoft Search for OneDrive. Microsoft Search, if you didn't know, is an intelligent enterprise search experience for Microsoft that applies artificial intelligence from Bing and the deep personalized insights that you get from the Microsoft Graph to make search more effective for you, which hopefully increases your productivity, saves you time, and now it's just one click away across all of your applications, your desktop, and your browser. So now it comes to OneDrive. The new search box will appear at the top of the page in the Office 365 Suite header, and it gives you this consistent place to always access and search the functionality, and it's always in that scope of where are you searching from, with the ability to then up-level to do broader searches across your enterprise. One of the things that we're doing to raise visibility of how these apps are interconnected and interoperate in between each other, this is now a feature we want to highlight between SharePoint and Teams. you can now tell if a SharePoint document library folder is connected to a Teams channel. So it's easier to tell which folders within your library have an associated Teams channel, especially if you recently groupified and teamified from a previous classic Teams site. This means that the chat capability associated to it is visible and actionable right within the SharePoint user interface. And to support this scenario, SharePoint helps you understand that some of the actions like delete or rename a channel-connected folder, those need to happen in the Teams user experience. Last thing was a pretty large partner announcement with one, of course, more than one, but one distinct feature that you've been asking for a lot. So to set the context, the Adobe Document Cloud now integrates with SharePoint and OneDrive. This means that Adobe Acrobat, Adobe Document Cloud, and Adobe Sign, which typically are standalone document applications in their own right, they're now deeply integrated across a number of Microsoft 365 products. And specific to why I wanted to highlight it today was, for you, your files now will continue to stay in SharePoint and OneDrive, both in the view and the edit mode, so you keep the benefits of a unified management and governance for all of your content. The Adobe Document Cloud also now supports single sign-on with Azure Active Directory, which dramatically simplifies the login and avoids the need for you to manage multiple account sign-ins. So you'll get all the major capabilities to work with PDF files on the web, and in the context of having them remain in SharePoint, not downloaded to your desktop, I'll re-emphasize that. That's the big sticking point. Your files remain in SharePoint and OneDrive, but you get the benefits of being able to do things like inline commenting, drawing, and of course, editing your PDFs in their native apps, but keeping them in the original storage location. And that's it for teamwork. I think with all of that, your teamwork is going to go up, I'm going to say 10 to 15%, if not 120%. Teamwork with all these new features that rolled out in June 2019 is going to be an amazing summer. I can't believe I'm already imagining all of you having the most productive summer ever. So let's move into items that are related to SharePoint and OneDrive and what's actually rolled out in June 2019. And I've just got one item, but it's one of my favorite new applications that I use all the time, not necessarily in this new feature release, but I've been using it on my PC. I use it on my phone all the time. I have an Android phone. But now the Microsoft To-Do app is available for Mac. So if you have a mixed environment, or if you yourself have a PC at work and a Mac at home, or a blend of whatever, however you're moving throughout your day, and you're getting tasks which now can combine tasks that you're getting through Planner, tasks that you're assigning yourself in To-Do, and of course a really rich task roadmap ahead. Now, if you're doing that from a Mac or have a Mac in the mix, you can have Microsoft To-Do, which again, I'll just put a little plug, is one of my favorite new apps just to keep me and myself oriented with what others are asking of me, and of course, little things that I want to remind myself of. So our one related item this month is the Microsoft To-Do app for Mac. Give it a try if you're a Mac person, or if you've got a Mac in the mix. I guarantee it's a great task to put on your to-do list today. So that's it. Let's move on to the teasers. Teasers are all about what's coming next month, and for this episode, next month is July 2019. Thing number one, which is an item we've been working on for a while, is OneDrive B2B Sync, which enables you to have shared libraries that are actually sharing content across tenants from other businesses. And as long as you give the okay, and of course IT can make it so that you can or can't, depending on different policies, now you can work with people across tenants and actually benefit from being able to sync their content that you've been granted permission to. Thing number two is a simple but powerful one. You'll be able to get direct links to individual PowerPoint slides. This is something that you would do in PowerPoint Online. Right-click, get a link to the slide, and when you send it to somebody, what they receive is a direct link to actually takes them to that particular slide. A really great time saver and a really great ability to set the context of how you want to direct people's attention. So that's it with the teasers. We're close to the end of the pit stop. Let's apply the brakes a little and cover the important resources that are always available to you. We've added a list of important resources in the show notes based on this month's innovation. These links will assist you in learning more about the Message Center, the Microsoft 365 Public Roadmap, our SharePoint and OneDrive community blogs, and of course, all things Twitter, all the places you need to get up to speed and to stay ahead. We want to make sure you are the most informed audience, and certainly please share that with others that are asking questions about the roadmap. We hope you've enjoyed this nice, smooth, speedy ride through the pit stop. Thank you for enduring all those tight turns and tire burns of rubber. Thanks for listening to the Intrazone Roadmap Pit Stop June 2019 edition. Please stay engaged, ask questions, push us to get the best information and insights that you need. We're here to put both our and your best change management foot forward. This is Mark Cashman saying adios till next month. Thanks for listening.